Hello, and welcome to the Ohio Department of Taxation's Information Guide series. Today we will be discussing Notice ID 1003, the Individual Income Tax Failure to File Notice. The notice presented here may look slightly different from the one you received in the mail, but the information provided on the notice is the same. This notice is issued to taxpayers who report an Ohio address on their federal income tax return for a given year, but the Ohio Department of Taxation does not receive an IT-1040 or IT-1040EZ Ohio Individual Income Tax Return. As you open the letter, at the top of the page, you will see the tax year or years in question and that the notice is for failure to file. As you move down the page, you will see your name, address, the last 4 digits of your Social Security number or numbers, and the date the notice was issued. In the corner of the page, you'll see the mailing address for the Ohio Department of Taxation, which is where you should send your response. The section below shows the Notice ID 1003 and explains that you are receiving this notice because you used an Ohio address when filing your federal return with the IRS, but the state of Ohio did not receive an Ohio income tax return. This exchange of information between the IRS and state tax departments is authorized under Section 6103D of the Internal Revenue Code. Moving down the notice, there are 3 boxes that contain different options used to resolve the tax issue. After reading the 3 scenarios, you will choose the option that fits your situation and respond by following the instructions. Option number 1 is applicable for taxpayers who are non-residents of Ohio for any period of time during the tax year or years on the notice. Often, taxpayers move to Ohio after the end of the year, but before filing their federal tax return. Since they currently live in Ohio, they of course use their Ohio address on their return. Unfortunately, there is no way for the department to know that the taxpayer did not live in Ohio during the previous tax year. If this scenario applies to you, respond by either completing Form IT-10, which is the Ohio Income Tax Informational Notice, or by providing a copy of the tax return you filed with the state where you were a resident, copies of all W-2s and/or 1099s, and a copy of this notice. If you lived in a state that does not have an income tax, you will not be able to provide a state income tax return. Instead, please provide documentation of your residency. There is a list of acceptable items on the back of the notice. It is important that the documentation provided shows the physical address and covers the beginning and end of the tax year or years on the notice. If you are a military service member and/or a spouse or dependent who are residents of another state and were stationed in Ohio per the military orders, or if you are a resident of another state who uses an Ohio address for mailing purposes only, you may also complete the Form IT-10, which can be found at tax.ohio.gov. An example would be that if you use an Ohio tax preparer and list the preparer's address on your tax return. Option number 2 is for taxpayers who were full-year or part-year residents of Ohio during the tax year on the notice and have not yet filed their Ohio tax return. You must file an Ohio tax return even if you are only a part-year resident. You may file the Ohio Individual Income Tax Return electronically for free using the Ohio iFile program available at tax.ohio.gov. Or you can submit a paper return, Form IT-1040 or IT-1040EZ, along with all W-2s and/or 1099s. Paper returns can be mailed to the address shown on the income tax return or faxed to 614-387-1847. Please note that if you choose to file the return electronically, you are not required to mail a copy in response to the notice. If applicable, submit payments electronically at tax.ohio.gov or include them in your mail response with the appropriate payment voucher. The appropriate payment voucher will be Form IT-40P for the correct tax year, which is the year or years on the notice. Please include any applicable interest and penalty with your payment. The calculation of interest and penalty is detailed on the back page of this notice. Option number 3 is for taxpayers who have already filed their Ohio income tax return and, if applicable, paid their tax liability for the year in question. Your response should include a paper copy of the return, along with all W-2s and 1099s, a copy of the failure to file notice, and copies of the front and backs of the canceled check or checks for any payments that you have made. If your tax return was originally filed electronically, include the 10-digit confirmation number from your filing. If you have submitted an electronic payment, please include the 15-digit confirmation number for credit card payments or the 6-digit confirmation number for ACH payments. There will be a separate confirmation number for the filing of the return and your payment. Occasionally, tax returns are processed under an incorrect Social Security number. Please double-check your tax return to make sure the Social Security number is correct and legible. If it is incorrect, please include the complete correct Social Security number in your response. The next section of the notice includes an area where you can write your phone number and email address in case the department has follow-up questions regarding the information that you submit. Immediately below, you will see the date by which you are required to respond. Failing to respond by this date may lead to an assessment, which will include estimated tax, interest, and penalty. The back page of the notice begins with the additional documentation for option number 1. You may send any of the listed items to help validate your residency. The next section answers a question that we are asked daily. The Ohio Department of Taxation is not authorized to set up a formal payment plan. However, any partial payments that are sent will be applied to the outstanding balance. Please include a payment voucher with any payment that you send so that it can be applied correctly. Payments can also be made electronically at tax.ohio.gov. Interest is required by law according to the Ohio Revised Code. This section explains how interest and penalty are calculated. The bottom of the back page includes legal references to the Internal Revenue Code pertaining to the exchange of information between the IRS and state taxation and revenue departments. It also shows the section of the Ohio Revised Code which cites the presumption of domicile and explains that the individual bears the burden of proof regarding his or her residency. For more information on this notice, you can visit the Self-Help Library section of our website and view the electronic notice, which will contain links to the various sections of the Ohio Revised Code referenced in this notice, as well as other useful links for information available on our website. This concludes the information guide for Notice ID 1003, the Individual Income Tax Failure to File Notice. Should you have any other questions, you may contact us by email through the Contact Us link at tax.ohio.gov or call us at 1-888-405-4091. Thank you.